$100,000 from your selling of your current home in your pocket. You put it on the mortgage, right? You're going to save $300,000. Hey everyone, how is it going? I cannot wait to do this video because it is about mortgages and you're going to love it. But before I start, make sure you hit subscribe below, like, comment, share, do all the things. My channel hopefully is helping people out with their budgeting, but today we are talking about mortgage manipulation, and it is going to be awesome because we're going to be able to save you tens/hundreds of thousands of dollars potentially, depending on your scenario and your situation. So before I begin, again, I'm not licensed to anything, so don't sit here and say, "Oh, you're not licensed to do this." I don't care what you say. I'm going to do it anyway because I like helping people. So anyway, there are 3 rules of mortgages that we're going to start with. The first rule is do not ever, in any circumstance, do a variable interest rate mortgage. It is a bad idea. It is a very, very bad idea. I do not like them personally. I think it's a con. It's a way to get people to buy stuff that they don't need, and then you can now not budget because now you have to worry about your interest rate increasing at a moment's notice. I think it's every year potentially. I honestly didn't look it up because I don't care, because you shouldn't do it. Second one is always put enough down payment to not have mortgage insurance, the PMIs, and to make sure you do get that fixed rate. Because if you do not put 20% down, is usually what you want to put down, you end up getting issues. For instance, I know people who have put 3.5% down. What they had to do is go to an institute that would allow that and pay a higher interest rate. That's usually not a good thing. And the last but not least is you should never go over 27% of your take home when it comes to mortgage and escrow combined. Some people say 30, I'm saying 27, do what you want. But the reason for that is because if someone does lose their job in the household, and say it's the higher earner, you're going to be in a situation where your mortgage is literally going to be the only thing you're going to be able to keep up with potentially. And that's not a position you want to be in. So with that all being said, those are my mortgage rules, personal rules. Again, I'm not a financial advisor or anything like that. I will say sometimes people have to break those rules in order for them to buy their first home. I understand that. But I will say that if you've been doing a good job with budgeting and you've been listening to the videos and it's really got you into the mood to budget at a younger age, you can do this and you can make sure to have that down payment and then manipulate your first mortgage. But the problem with manipulating your first mortgage is you have to be very careful of how long you are going to be there. Because if you're only going to be there 1 or 2 years, you're going to have an issue with the amount of money you put toward it versus the interest you're actually going to save, right? So it's a little bit of a calculated move, if you will. So for this exercise, we're actually going to focus more on a second mortgage or your second home. Your second home is usually, second or third home is usually your forever home, right? And if it's not your forever home, it's somewhere where you plan to stay for at least 10 to 20 years. And if that is the case, I've got 3 other notes. First, if you break any of the rules at this point and it's going to be your forever home, that was stupid. Don't do it. Because it's really dumb because you're forcing this house upon yourself when you're not in the best scenario to take it on. The second note is that if you have multiple loans and you need to get rid of one of those loans in order to make ends meet and in order to hit your house payments with escrow, do not buy the house. This is not a good scenario to put yourself in. It is very stupid. Sorry. Last but not least, if it is your forever home and you're paying all of this money for it, do not settle for anything less than what you want. If this is truly your forever home, do not settle. Of course, there's things inside you can always change. You can always change the floors. You can always change baseboards and what have you. I can't stand the base in my house, so that's going to be changed. But you can't change the bones for the most part. You can't change the foundation for the most part. So those things are very critical to making sure that you get exactly what you want in your forever home. Some of you are probably saying, this is a little bit crazy. How is someone going to be able to put down 20% and do all of these things? I'm only 30, 35, 40 years old. There's no way I'm going to be able to do this. That is not true. I did this at 28 years old, and I saved a ton of money. I'm not divulging how much I saved on here, but it was a ton of money because of diligence and budgeting. With that being said, it's not meant to be arrogant. That's not me saying, look at me, toot toot. It's, you can do it. That is a positive outlook for what you can do. I promise you, you can do everything. Follow the budgeting I talked about earlier videos, and then move on to this mortgage video, and I promise you, you will and can save a ton of money. We're going to dive right in. So for an example, we're going to use a $330,000 home as the example. Right now, home prices are kind of crazy, so that seems like the middle of the road of what I wanted to use. That gives you a loan amount after 20% of $275,000. So that is how much your loan is for, $275,000. Let's use 7%. Interest rates are really high right now, and let's use a 30-year period of time. If you're doing 15 years, you must have a very high-paying job because that's well above 27%. Remember the rules. So before I get into this mortgage manipulation, I want you to see several different things in regards to this crazy mortgage, right? The $275,000 is not a crazy amount. It's over 30 years, right? We don't have to worry about anything. Wrong. Check out the charts that I'm going to show. One of them is how much interest you will pay over a 30-year loan if you pay no extra payments. And that amount is $383,649 on a $330,000 house. That is literally, you're paying more in interest than you paid for your home at that rate and that term. Think about that. That is crazy. And that's why I'm doing this video. But actually, look at the chart. Here you can see two graphs, one going down, one going up. The one going down slightly is your interest you're paying. It starts very, 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 very high and then goes down to the bottom. Now the opposite chart, you can see it going up. That is what you're paying on your house itself. Say you're staying there for 10 years, right? In 10 years, you're going to pay approximately $180,000 in interest while only paying $40,000 on your home. That is stupid. So we're in this scenario where we're buying this house. We go down the normal protocol. We get the house and put down our 20% like I mentioned earlier. We go through and we get the mortgage. Usually you don't have a payment for the first 2 months, or at least that's the bank that did mine. I think they gave me a month or two forgiveness. I don't remember. And now since you've had that 20% down payment, it's time for you to sell your current home. I personally sold my home by myself, but that doesn't mean it's smart for everyone to do that. You can use a realtor or what have you. Just be very wary of how much they're going to charge you to sell your home. It's usually around 5 to 7%, I believe. I haven't done it, so who knows. With that being said, we're going to go through two scenarios here with this big mortgage, $275,000. The first is that after your home sells and you already did your down payment, you're now going to have $50,000 in your pocket. Now, a lot of people are going to say, look, dude, you can put that $50,000 in the market and make a ton of money in 30 years. Why would you not do that? That's true. You could potentially do that. 7% is a lot to make, so have fun trying to do that without putting in a 401k and never seeing it again for potentially 40 years. But I would argue another thing that people are going to do with that money. Say you have $50,000, I guarantee you, if you don't put it somewhere, you're going to spend, I'm going to guess $25,000 of it on stuff you don't need. So why not put it at the forefront of your mortgage where you can save interest and never have to worry about that money again? $50,000 on your first payment of your new mortgage, $275,000, is going to save you $210,000 plus or minus. $210,000 with that $50,000. Now, I'm going to do another scenario. Say you saved $100,000. That house you just sold, you stayed there for a while, you wanted to make sure you got that down payment, and now you're buying your forever home, and you have $100,000 from your selling of your current home in your pocket. You put it on the mortgage, right? You're going to save $300,000 of that interest. $300,000. Now I get it. You're spending $100,000 getting $200,000 extra, right? And you can put it in the market and make more over time, potentially. But again, I argue you're not going to do that. So this is a sure, foolproof way that you can save. Now, again, it matters is if it's going to be your forever home. You don't want to kill all this interest if it's not going to be your forever home. Or you could argue that, I can pay off my truck, or I can pay off my car, or I can pay off my boat and have that taken down, the snowball effect, because that's going to be smart. It's not smart. What is smart, if you can afford those payments, again, that's a rule. If you can't afford them, don't buy the house. But if you can't afford those payments, for some reason, something happens, yes, the snowball effect is probably intelligent for you at this moment. But if it's not important that you pay those off, put it on your mortgage, because there is nothing that you bought, unless you're buying Lamborghinis, that's going to save you $300,000 with $100,000 bill. Let's go back to the first mortgage. So it's your first mortgage, and you're like, I only have a $100,000 house, and it's going to be $20,000 down payment, and maybe I have an extra $10,000 I can put at the beginning of that. Well, $10,000 with the same interest rate and a 30-year loan could potentially save you $50,000, upwards of $50,000. So it's not a silly thing to try to make sure to compensate for smaller loans, smaller mortgages in this case. So another thing I wanted to bring up is I was under the manipulation. I always thought that, I can't pay off my home because my mortgage deduction. I can't get rid of my mortgage deduction. So that is something to look into of where you live. What is a mortgage deduction you're getting on your taxes? I will say where I live, it was 3%. I was under the impression it was like 50%, which blows my mind. I should have done a little bit more research. See, I'm not perfect, everyone. No matter how much you think I am. I was under the impression that whenever I paid off my loan, I would have a huge increase in my property taxes. And that's not the case. Now, why is that important? It's because if your property taxes, say they go up $4,000 after you pay off your loan, probably isn't going to happen, just FYI. Does that compensate for how much you're going to save on your mortgage over time by manipulating it? It might not, especially if you did what I did. I started out with a 30-year loan, and within a year, using mortgage manipulation, I transferred it to a 15-year loan. And on my home, I'm not going to divulge how much that cost. I'm only going to pay roughly $30,000 to $40,000 on interest over the lifetime of owning my home. With that being said, if I have a 15-year loan and I'm 3 years into it, and my mortgage is going to be $30,000 interest, but my taxes are going to go up to $4,000 extra, you see how I would pay more in taxes if I paid off my home? So there are things you always have to be wary of. Now, it's not just just do this and go kind of scenario. You have to really think about these things. And like I mentioned on my last video, is Carl's Mortgage Calculator is what I use on my app, on my phone. But the best way to do it is to get on Excel and just go through different spreadsheets on the loan amortization calculator and go through several different spreadsheets, several different scenarios of, hey, I can't put this down on the first month, but I can put it on the 12th month. I guarantee you will see a tremendous amount of savings, even if it's on the 12th month. Now, if you're on the back end of a mortgage, or you're on the back end of any kind of loan, say you're 5 of a 6 year, or you're at 21 of a 30, you really need to start doing those calculations, because is it going to be worth it? Because overall, you might save thousands of dollars for the next 9 years, but over 9 years, putting a small amount, you can probably make a lot more in the market. Again, you're paying all of your interest up front at the very beginning of your loan. See the chart again. All of this interest is here. So the majority of what you're paying at the end is your house. You got to pay that off anyway. But you're not paying mortgage interest anymore. You can see the decrease. You're not paying hardly anything in interest at the end of a loan. So everyone, I hope this helps. It was really fun for me to kind of dabble into this a little bit. If you want me to go more in depth, give me a shout. If you have any questions and you know me personally, shoot me a text, Facebook, whatever. If you don't know me, say hi in the comments, and have a great night, and hopefully this helped. Thanks.